A lawsuit whose origins stretch back over a decade has begun this week in Montana. This is a historic, as Common Dreams puts it here, a historic youth climate trial that is beginning in Montana. And I'm going to go over some of the details here, why this is a very interesting case. And also, I'll get to the origins of this as well. So first here, this is from their site. This is the Held v. State of Montana case, is a constitutional climate lawsuit brought by 16 Montana youth against their state to protect their equal rights to a healthy environment, life, dignity, and freedom. They are suing because their government keeps promoting and supporting fossil fuel extraction and burning, which is worsening the climate crisis and harming these youths' lives. Now, you may be wondering, what is the basis for this lawsuit? This is, in my look, I'm not a lawyer, but in my opinion, this is pretty clear. So this is from the Montana Code. This is right from their Constitution. Article 2, Section 3 says here under inalienable rights, all persons are born free and have certain inalienable rights. They include the right to a clean and healthful environment. They also go on to reference Article 9, Section 1 of the Constitution that writes protection and improvement. The state and each person shall maintain and improve a clean and healthful environment in Montana for present and future generations. You couldn't have a clearer case here. The fossil fuel industry, and in particular Montana, as I'll get to, is clearly creating an unhealthy and dangerous environment for the present and for future generations. So Montana is a big center for coal, and this is a recent piece here. Montana is doubling down on fossil fuels. This from the Montana Free Press. Some examples of that. This month, referring to last month, so back in May, the governor there signed a law barring the state from calculating the climate impacts of major projects. So in the year 2023, you have a governor here who simply does not want the facts in front of him, does not want the facts to be available for the kind of impact that these major projects, these fossil fuel projects, are having on the climate. And energy statistics show Montana holds 30% of U.S. recoverable coal reserves and produces the fourth most coal among U.S. states from 6 mines. Nearly half of its coal is exported to other states, while 1/4 goes to Western Canada and often on to Asia. Meanwhile, Montana's average temperatures have risen nearly 2.5 degrees since the beginning of the 20th century, according to federal data, more than twice the global average. So Montana, while exporting a lot of this, what they would refer to as energy, exporting a lot of this energy, it is having clearly a greater impact on their state than the average. This is, again, in my opinion, as clear of a case as you can get here. That doesn't mean that they're going to be successful, but here is what they are seeking to do. So the youth plaintiffs do not seek money. They are asking the court to declare that Montana's fossil fuel energy policies and actions violate young people's state constitutional rights. The youth want the court to tell the government that it is unconstitutional to keep exploiting fossil fuels and the need to keep fossil in the ground and transition to clean energy no later than 2050. This could not be more fair. And, you could argue this is not enough of an ask, but this is all they're asking for. The data's on their side. The science is on their side. Everything, the facts are on their side based on what Montana's own constitution says. The origins of this case, as I said at the beginning, go back over 10 years. So they stretch back to 2011 when a nonprofit called Our Children's Trust petitioned the Montana Supreme Court to rule that the state has a duty to address climate change. The court declined to weigh in, effectively telling the group to start in the lower courts. So the lawyers at Our Children's Trust began building their case. They worked with the environmental community to identify potential plaintiffs. They cataloged the ways in which the state was being impacted by climate change, and they documented the state's extensive support for the fossil fuel industry, which includes permitting, subsidies, and favorable regulations. Our Children's Trust, which is largely funded by foundations, has sued state governments on behalf of youth in all 50 states and is behind Juliana v. U.S., a closely watched climate case that pits young people against the federal government and is pending in district court in Oregon. But Held v. Montana is the first of these cases to head to trial. So this isn't the only one, but this is the first. And based on how this goes, we may see, the momentum here move behind these other cases going on in every other state. Last thing here, if you're free, you got some free time. This is being streamed live, so you can watch this as it is happening. Again, it started this week. I believe it began yesterday, but it's going on until the 16th, and then I think it picks up again next week. But I will link to that below the video in case you want to watch this live. It is good to see some different attempts here to try and move the needle in different ways. There's only so much in terms of what scientists can do and trying to warn and urge governments and just lawmakers in general to look at the data, do something about this. It's another to actually play their game and work with the law and try and use that against them to build up your own case and try and move the needle in whatever way you can. Really good to see this, and I hope they're successful.